Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today's talk is about free will. Free will. What is free will all about? Is it a right? Do we all have a right to have free will? Do we all have a right to freedom? Or is there something more to it? That's the question. Let me know how the audio is. Is the microphone coming through clear? Is the music too loud? There's no way for me to tell, so I have to rely on you all to give me the answer. Alfonso Robertson, peace. From my screen, you look like the first. MMK, peace. Alexandria Hemmings, good evening. ZJ, greetings. Virgo Bliss, peace. Catherine T. Collins, peace. Atropa, nice to see you again. Okay, excellent. ZJ says, greetings, looking shiny today, Trav. Yes, I just took a full bath in, what is it called? Jamaican castor oil, right? That's what it is. In any case, free will. Free will is what this is about. J Moon, peace. Society Ejects, peace. So look, I've been really seriously studying in depth about the unconscious mind and how it really influences our day-to-day activities. And to be honest, it can almost get to be a bit scary, right? Because we go most of our lives thinking that we run the show, that we are in control. But the more that I analyze this, the more that I really truly start to see, unless you're really doing this kind of work, right? Unless you're really truly doing this kind of work on a regular basis, there is no free will, right? Because if you're not analyzing yourself, if you're not paying attention to why you do what you do, right? And if you aren't really trying to dig into the root of your behavior, there's no possible way you have free will because you're extremely conditioned. The human being is a conditioned situation. The human being is conditioned. Now, what do I mean by conditioned? I mean, it operates under conditions, which means that there's limitation, there's boundaries, right? There's influences. Let's say, for example, we say unconditional love. Well, what does that mean? Unconditional love means you're dealing with a love that isn't dependent on the thing being loved to do anything specific. Unconditional love means it's the way it is, right? See, unconditional love is not if somebody makes you upset or they do something you don't like or their appearance changes, they gain weight, they lose weight, if they move out of the role that you set for them, right? That won't matter and affect anything at all, right? That's what unconditional love is. Unconditional love is not when somebody behaves a way that you don't like, now you stop loving them. That's not even love. That's more, what do you call that? Sentimentality at best. Attachment. It's attachment. That's what it is. Unconditional love means there's nothing that other person or thing can ever do to change your mind. Unconditioned, right? But see, the human experience is conditioned, meaning that we operate depending on the condition, right? See, some people like to study spirituality because their condition allows for it to be that way. But if the condition changed, they wouldn't be studying spirituality, right? What's a good way to put this? So everybody, everyone says that they're meditating and they're living in bliss and peace and they're forgiving other people and all this other stuff. But say something changed. Say now we're at war with another country, right? And you got troops marching the streets and people firing off weapons. All of a sudden, the conditions change and you're not studying spirituality anymore, right? You're no longer blissful and peaceful. You haven't said the word Purusha Prakriti in weeks because the conditions changed, right? So to be really about it means that you're going to be doing what you're doing no matter what the outside circumstances are. I'm not going to change what I'm doing, right? I'm doing what I'm doing, whether the camera's on or off, whether I'm homeless, whether I got a fat bank account or a very, very negative bank account, because I've had both, right? In the past 12 months alone, 6 months alone, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because when something is real, the external world doesn't affect it. So when I say that the human being is conditioned, what I'm saying is that we are so locked into being an effect. We're heavily influenced by our nature. And for that simple reason, there is not free will, as long as one operates in that way. Naturally natured, peace, peace. Elephant Venom, that's an interesting name. Peace, peace. Elephant Venom says it's crazy because this topic has been on my mind. Yeah. Well, it kind of just came to me, so. I don't want to spill all the delicious juice of the shadow work course. And of course, I didn't really do a reading of mystical Kabbalah this week. So in my studies, something that kind of connects in the middle of shadow work and Kabbalah is free will. Because Kabbalah is a system of studying the influences of nature, of the cosmos, right? Studying the influences and understanding how to utilize those influences to make one's life more efficient. We'll just put it that way. But the same thing's happening with shadow work, analyzing the forces of nature in order to make one's life more efficient. And the best way to make life more efficient is to place things more in your predictable control, right? We know that life is going to do what it does. You can't control everything, but there's something you can control, and that is your reaction to reality. Now, again, if you're heavily influenced by the unconscious mind, then you can't even control your reaction to reality, right? Say, for example, you were hurt as a young person, and because of that pain, you develop certain coping mechanisms so that if that pain is ever rekindled, or if it ever has something familiar come up, you've already got a coping mechanism in place to automatically respond, right? So a lot of people that get triggered over whatever, whether you're getting triggered over political debates online, or you're getting triggered over something your boss says, or what your partner says, or what your parents say, if you're getting triggered over anything at all, right? Because look, the trigger is an external thing. It's an external thing that happened, which causes you to react. So if anything triggers you, that's not free will. You are literally a slave to your impulses and to your body and to your memories, right? So I really want to illustrate just how important this really, really is. Free will does not mean that you can just wake up when you want and eat fast food every day, which I've been guilty of this week. Free will means that your behaviors and your thought processes and everything about your inner self is coming from the direction of the soul and not from the direction of being influenced by nature. So you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. Nobody's going to want to say, oh, well, I'm controlled by nature. Nobody wants to admit that. But if you can't be honest with yourself, then how can you expect reality to communicate with you honestly? Xavier Schaffer Bay, good evening. Good evening. Xavier Schaffer Bay says, me and my cousin were just talking about these last couple of days. Society Ejects says, that's crazy. Somebody just told me I need to stop focusing so much on spiritual and focus on getting the bag, right? But not realizing that abundance is spiritual in nature. Abundance, see, it all depends on what you're focusing on, right? If you focus on the product itself, you limit your possibility. But if you focus on the possibility, it's going to manifest in whatever way is easiest and most convenient. Alexandria Hemming says, this goes back to philosophy. We gave up freedom in the wild to come into the city for protection. Absolutely. And coming into the city for protection has its own poisons, because now we're starting to coalesce and create something that we call culture, which is basically group mind control, right? See, with culture, we set these rules for everyone, which, I mean, it has its benefits, but it also has its setbacks. Culture tells men what to do when it comes to finding a woman. Culture tells women what to do when it comes to attracting a male. Culture tells us what to teach our children and how to teach it. Culture tells us what we're capable of doing and what's forbidden, right? Culture limits our existence. Now, for most people who are operating on autopilot and have no free will, that's the best thing out. But for the very small few individuals, right? Very small few individuals, culture is a hindrance to the development of realizing the self. So because the numbers are outweighed like that, of course we have humanity working towards the sustenance of culture, because the massive majority of human beings are on autopilot. So of course you want to have a structure like culture in place. Don't hate culture. Don't hate what the government's doing. Don't hate none of this stuff, because it's necessary. Without this stuff, these people will be out here eating each other. Now, for the few, for the proud, for the awake, it takes a different type of work. And that work is knowledge of self. Without knowledge of self, there's nothing but slavery and suffering. Hot diggity dog. That's some hot coffee. Sunshine Chick, good evening. Al Diggy, peace, bro, peace. Christian Cloud, greetings. Alligator the Greater, peace, my brother. Alligator says, greetings. Since I've been studying NLP, the question I want to ask is, what exactly is free will? We're definitely going to get into that. Most definitely. Nuru, good to see you, my friend. Om Tat Savitor Varenyam says, how do you gain knowledge of self? Well, it has everything to do with what direction you're looking. What direction you're looking. If you're looking on the outside, outwardly and downwardly, all you're going to find is the patterns of nature repeating themselves. And because we are regulated by a function that we call ego, we will start to identify with that pattern and say that that's what reality is. The opposite is to look inward and upward. And from there, we begin to see that something exists, or rather doesn't exist, beyond nature, that there's something that exists beyond nature. And like I said, when it comes to the ego, we have a tendency to identify and attach to things. Now, you can't really just get rid of that, the same way you can't really just get rid of desire. But the best thing you can do is point it in an efficient direction. By pointing desire and attachment inward towards the soul, that's your best bet. Because the soul is formless. So as hard as the ego tries to attach to something that is formless, eventually it will realize the futility of such an endeavor and understand that there exists something beyond its grasp. See, when you're looking at nature, it's cool because you get to study patterns, but everything here is within the ego's grasp. Ego can become anything that it wants to become down here. If you want to be a porcupine, if you want to identify as a pair of Beats headphones by Dre, then you can do that, right? And if you argue loud enough online, then you can force other people to agree with your identification. But if you look inward and upward, you'll find that there is not much to identify with. So in forcing the ego to see the truth, it will eventually have to submit to what is superior to it. Let me know if that makes sense. Tat Savitor Varenium. Society Eject says, by taking your course, shadow work is helping me identify other people and where they are coming from. Yes, this course is doing a number on me as well. It's like the light has been turned on and I cannot turn it off. Like, you just can't help but see. You can't help but see. But that's a good thing. I'd rather see than be blind. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. Higher understanding says you have to be open and just let it happen. So let's get a little bit more into this, shall we? So the human being is conditioned. As I said, I explained thoroughly what conditions are, and you know what conditions are, right? From the moment that we wake up, even while you're sleeping, by the way. But every moment of our existence, as long as we are not paying attention, we are being fueled and driven by our desires and by our attachments and by the things that we identify with, right? We don't know how to behave outside of those parameters. The world has given us culture and society and parameters and conditions so that you can pick and choose something. Even if you want to be antisocial, we got a word for that, right? We got character traits for that. We got an archetype for that. No matter what it is that you have chosen to be, or should I say, no matter what it is that your karma has assigned for you to be, there's a role for it that is fully scripted out. And honestly, all you just blindly follow it, right? But to liberate yourself from such a thing is going to take a different kind of work, right? You got to think, if you have a question and the answer is like really easy, chances are you're not asking the best quality questions. If you can sit there and answer it logically with your brain, like, oh, well, this means X, Y, Z, da, 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 you're not digging deep enough, right? You want to ask questions that make you stop and think for a couple of days. You want to ask questions that are wrapped in layers of emotion. What I mean by that is, you want to ask questions that make you uncomfortable. That discomfort is the layers of emotions that you've been running from. Those are the kind of questions you want to ask. Not questions that you know the answer to and you just want to sound smart, right? Like, you know, what we got to do about demiurge? Like, that has nothing to do with you. Ask about yourself. Ask about yourself. Not demiurge, not Bill Gates, not Joe Biden and his son and cocaine and all that stuff. That has nothing to do with you. Never will. Never has. So nature is what conditions us, right? And we think about nature, we think about prakriti. Prakriti is another word, is the ancient word for nature, right? Prakriti is an ancient title of the magnificent queen nature, who in all of her lovely grace and beauty we give much respect to, right? Because, you know, you got to think about it also. We're dealing with divine things. And when I say divine, I mean they're bigger than us in every respect. No matter how advanced we believe we are, Prakriti is superior to the condition that we identify with. We exist because of Prakriti. And if Prakriti was like a mountain, the very top tip of that mountain, which would be the most finest, refined, sattvic aspect of her, it's so great that we have to split it into three parts, right? And we call her Saraswati, Durga, Lakshmi, right? That's the tip, that's the upper triad of Prakriti. That's her highest, most pure form. And what we find is that she becomes three aspects of the force that we can work with. So Prakriti is not just some dumb machine. I might have painted a picture like that, but allow me to correct myself now. Prakriti is not just some dumb machine that's just doing stuff automatically. It is a very divine force. And she must be studied like that. So Prakriti and nature, she's actually more than what we perceive with our senses, right? We have a very small slice of perception, and we think that that is the totality of nature. No, nature is not just what you see. It's not the trees outside. It's not just what you hear and you feel. It's not this delicious scent of fruity pebbles and cinnamon that's blowing all over me. Prakriti is more than what can be detected with your five senses. Nature is more than what can be detected with the five senses. You know, it's like a video game, right? When I get off this live stream, I'm jumping right onto Fortnite. And you probably play Call of Duty. You probably play PUBG. You probably play, you're probably one of those people that play NBA 2K or whatever, right? But when we look at these games, what we see on the screen are the rendered graphics and the response to us pressing buttons on the controller. But that's not the totality of the game. That's not everything that's happening. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of computation and algorithms being processed. There's a lot going on. There's so much going on that we can't even comprehend, right? If you were to just look at the numbers as they're clicking and tattering away, you wouldn't understand what was going on. And you don't care either. All you care about is what the visuals on the screen and how it interacts with your thumbs. Likewise with nature, there's what we see, but there's so much more going on in the background. So much more going on in the background. And most people don't care. But those of us who do study spirituality, we care. We're a type of programmer. We're a cosmic programmer. And we're studying these patterns and these algorithms because we want to know how it works. And we want to know how to make it work for us. So again, nature is more than just what we pick up with the five senses. The five senses are pretty much your controller and your television screen. The rest of nature is everything else. So since we only observe a single slice, a single dimension of nature, a very narrow slice that we call the third dimension, the 3D physical world, there's so much more, right? What we learn from Tantra is that there's at least 5 layers. There's the physical, the etheric, the astral, the mental, and the causal. Or if you were to take this to the Kabbalah teachings, you get Asaya, which is the physical plane, you get Yetzirah, Bria, and then Atziluth, which is the causal plane. So there might be a discrepancy in the numbers, right? I've heard 7, I've heard 5, I've heard 4, I've heard 3. There might be different discrepancies in how many. That doesn't matter. What matters is knowing that we're dealing with one thing for sure that has a pole on each side, and then there's gradations in between. So in other words, at the very bottom of this pole, we've got the physical 3D world. And at the top of this pole, we've got the unmanifest. Now, it's the same thing, but there's graduated levels in between, right? And if you don't understand that, then of course, this won't make sense, right? It'll look like life is just this crazy chaos that doesn't make sense. Oh, well, if God is all love, then how come babies have to die? And how come how come this has to happen? Da, 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 da. We ask questions like that because we don't understand that there's actually levels and layers, and there's more going on than just what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think. Whole lot more. Just like when you cut on your Xbox, there's more that's going on, or your PlayStation, for those of you who managed to get the PS5 memes or whatever. There's so much more going on than what you see on the screen. A lot more. And it's such a precise art that they pay people a lot of money to learn how to do that, how to code and program. So that being said, that higher plane, right? That higher plane, that causal plane, it isn't just out there in space somewhere where you can't touch it. Atziluth isn't just out there somewhere. The causal body, which is also known as, maybe not the body of light, maybe we can call it something else. If we were to call it one of the koshas, we could say it was the Anandamaya kosha, the body of bliss. That body doesn't just exist somewhere out in the distance. That causal plane and the causal body is something that permeates every level of existence. So even at the dense physical level, the causal body is operating there. As a matter of fact, the physical 3D world constructs itself based on the instructions that it picks up from these subtle planes. Nothing down here physical starts on this level. Everything that has ever manifested at any degree is patterned after some type of prototype, and the prototype exists on the unmanifest plane. The same way that a prototype for the iPhone exists on somebody's computer somewhere. It isn't physical, it's a concept. Now what happens is when they press the button, that concept undergoes different stages to become physical, manifest, and third dimensional, right? If you want an iPhone, you go to Apple or whatever, you pay that outlandish amount of money, and that prototype goes through a conveyor belt, and all these different machines are touching it and adding screws and Apple magic to it. And eventually it manifests as a physical object that you can hold and use and work with. It didn't start that way. It started as a concept. It even started before the blueprint, as an idea or a vision in somebody's head. And guess what? It was even something before that. Before there was a Steve Jobs, the iPhone has always existed on the causal plane. That's what I mean. These prototypes exist always, eternally, at these higher planes. But because we find ourselves in an iPhone, right? We have a physical body, which is also a manifestation of a prototype. Adam Kadmon, Purusha. Even though we find ourselves in a physical vessel, this is not what we are. This is the same thing as that iPhone. It is an expression of a prototype. Now, because we interact with the world, which is also a manifestation of a prototype, because we interact with this world through this body, it's very easy to perceive the things that this body is equipped to perceive. It's very difficult to perceive the things that this body is not equipped to perceive, right? So most people just go off of what they're able to perceive with the five senses. And because of that, there's a lot of misunderstanding. We miss what cause and effect actually is. If you can't perceive the cause, then you're not going to understand the effect, not in its totality. So you have to expand your awareness to be able to perceive the cause with the effect at the same time. That's the only way to really know what the truth is, right? You can't just look at Hollywood and say they're turning the frogs gay, right? Alex Jones, like, you can't just say that. You have to be able to see beyond just today. You got to be able to project into tomorrow and also look at the cause of where this may have come from. Only then can you really see what's going on. What I'm saying is that there are so many different factors at play that it's impossible to make a judgment because you're looking in the wrong direction. Let's see here. And by the way, if you find yourself watching this YouTube video, I encourage you to take your thumb and tap on the thumbs up button, because that's going to add a like to this video, and that's going to make YouTube say, this is why we made this program. And that'll make me say, thank you, I appreciate you. So hit the like button, because that's a good thing to do. Will Trent, peace, my brother. Oh yeah, Stray Panther, good evening, my friend. Better me for LF. Peace. Society Eject says, yes, I know this may sound cliche, but when you really look at it, there's nothing else to do but study and trying to figure out the mysteries. I've come to see that. What the fuck else to do? What else to do? Because everything else, I mean, it's very temporary and short-lived in its fulfillment and its joy, right? I mentioned that I play Fortnite a lot, but I'm not going to sit here and play 24/7. It ain't that fun. It's everything can be enjoyed in proper doses. Everything can be enjoyed in small doses. All right. It's called, what do they call it? Moderation. But this right here, this type of stuff right here, it to me, it's the closest thing to being fulfilled, right? The search isn't quite it, but it's closer than anything else, right? There isn't anything else that I've ever experienced that is as fulfilling as the study and practice of reality. Center of my being, good evening. Glad that you were able to catch this live. And by the way, we're not going to go for too long. I just wanted to make sure that I was able to come out here with some delicious information. I've been real busy. Holy cow. But I love it. You know what I'm saying? This is what I wanted. I've been basically doing consultations every single day, right? With those of you who have signed up for the course. So we're working, you know what I'm saying? It's not just a bunch of videos that I throw out there and it's like, hey, watch these. It's a really intimate connection where I am communicating with all of you. And if I haven't gotten to you yet, of course, you've put your date on the calendar, so we'll get to you. But this is really good. I'm really busy in a good way, and I love this. I absolutely love this. But once I get my schedule adjusted, because this is a lot of energy, I haven't poured out this much energy in quite a while. But once I get myself readjusted, I'll get right back to these the book studies with mystical Kabbalah and the other things that we're doing. So it's not like I just dropped it all, right? I have a human body. It has to rest sometimes, which I haven't been doing. Just reading the chat here so far, that's all. All right. ZJ says, one thing different, gradations of density. The labels we assign are to make distinctions between degrees of density. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when people talk about the astral plane and the mental plane, I mean, it's not like places that you can drive somewhere and go visit. They represent different densities. So the mental plane is of a density that is different from the density of the astral plane. And the etheric plane is of a different density, and the physical plane is of a different density. But it's not like a cut and dry. It's not like you're in the physical plane, then all of a sudden you're in the etheric plane, then all of a sudden you're in the astral. It blends together. And the blending of the physical plane with the etheric plane is the thing that we call imagination, right? So imagination isn't, a lot of people look down on imagination because probably during school and being a child, you were told to stop daydreaming all the time, and that's just kid stuff, whatever. But come on, everything that we ever have comes from the imagination. I just talked about Bill Gates and his phone and all that stuff. He didn't create it. None of us create anything. Creation is not what we do on the physical plane. Creation is not what we do in Malkuth. Creation is not what we do in Asaya. Creation is not what we do in Prithvi. We receive things. We receive what we're suited to receive, what we're capable of receiving, and we move it around. But you don't create anything. There's nothing you've ever created, right? Not even the turd that got flushed down that toilet. It simply got transformed into something else and passed through. We're facilitators. So I say that magic is the ability to facilitate change, not the ability to create change. Magic is the ability to facilitate change, meaning that change is going to happen regardless. Change was happening before you got here, and it will continue after. But if you're able to put yourself in a position to facilitate that change, it may appear that you have power, right? But of course, if you're in a position where you're unable to facilitate any change, then you're powerless. But yeah, let me get back to this because we're talking about free will. Moderation is key. That's it. Rob Blackstorm, peace. Alora, good evening. Tatsavitum Varenium. You got that mantra stuck in my head now. Rise Academy, peace. MMK says, how much is consultations? Well, right now, if you sign up for my course, then that's where I'm offering them. But otherwise, I'm completely booked for the next couple months. Sure Panther says, speaking of which, thanks for that consultation, Travis Magus. It was not easy, but it was what was needed. Awesome, bro. Awesome. Daydream. Alora says, matter is not created nor destroyed, just moved. Right, and even science will tell you that. Even science will tell you that. Uh-oh. Well, maybe I won't be playing Fortnite. All good. Numinous luminosity. Peace, bro. All right. Well, so we were talking about the causal plane and how the causal plane extends into deeper dimensions than we can perceive with this physical body, deeper dimensions than we can perceive with our mind, with our ego. It goes very, very deep. That's why they call it the causal plane. See, these different worlds and these different planes, they're kind of stacked on top of each other. Like I said, it's not like it's way out in space somewhere. It's right here, right now. The difference is your level of awareness, right? You've got an unconscious mind as well as a conscious mind. But by very definition, the fact that it's unconscious means that you're not aware of it. Well, guess what is within the realm of the unconscious? The causal plane, the mental plane, the astral plane, the etheric plane. These things are here and now, always, and always have been. So whenever you experience a synchronicity or a miracle or some kind of magical experience, that's your awareness perceiving something that is just outside the jurisdiction that it's used to stomping around in, right? So you don't astral project like if you're asleep and you shoot somewhere into the distance. No, there's the astral plane is happening right now. You can tap into it right now. So we're only capable of becoming free only by realizing what it is that keeps us conditioned. All right, you're only capable of being free once you realize what it is that is keeping you conditioned. So like I mentioned with the unconscious mind, the conditions that you experience are unconscious. You don't realize it, right? We don't know. See, if you look at the people in your life, especially people who may have like attitude problems, or they may be real sensitive and you got to walk on eggshells around them, they're conditioned to be that way based on past experiences, right? They probably have an immature emotional development. So because of that immature emotional development, they're always cranky. They always have to be the center of attention. They just can't get right. They're always having drama with somebody. They can't help but stir up trouble, right? It's not because they're bad people, but it's because they have unconscious elements, unconscious factors that is basically enslaving them to a behavior pattern, right? So if they're never aware of that, that's where they stay. And that goes for everyone. Think about the things that you compulsively do, right? You compulsively do. Do you compulsively buy a certain thing? Do you compulsively go to a certain place? Do you have a compulsive habit that you just can't stop? Well, that's due to an unconscious factor and being locked into an unconscious habit pattern. And you might say, man, I don't know why I keep doing this. I don't know why I keep coming back to do this. I know it's not right. It's not good for me, but I can't stop it. Does that sound like free will? Does that sound like freedom? That's called being bound to an unconscious habit pattern, to an unconscious force. And the only way to fix that is not by trying to fight it and force yourself to not do it. We all know that doesn't work. It may work for a little while, but it doesn't stick because it didn't penetrate into the unconscious realm. The only way to fix that type of behavior is to identify the pattern itself, is to make what was unconscious conscious. And once you make it conscious, now you're able to do something about it. But you're capable of becoming free only by realizing what it is that keeps you conditioned. And the best way to untie a knot is how? Who knows the best way to untie a knot? Please put it in the chat. Tat Savitor Varanium says those intentions were received through psychic visions in the astral realms. Exactly. And there's a map for that. There's a pattern for that. That's not just arbitrary. Like, that's what the Tree of Life is about. It shows you the different angles and perspectives that a lot of this energy flows and how it flows, right? Specifically, we could talk about the realm of Chesed, where Jupiter is on the tree. That is the realm that touches the bridge between the unmanifest and the manifest. And that's where new ideas come from. There's nothing new under the sun. That's why you have to expand up to Chesed in order to get something new. You don't get nothing new under Tifereth. There's nothing new under the sun. The new stuff is outside of the realm of Jupiter. Ya Micah, peace, peace. Shango, peace, bro. Indigo Blackbird, good evening. The best way to untie a knot. Elephant Venom says, yes, parts of you is already in the astral while you're currently here. Yep, and I want to take it a step further. The majority of you is in those higher planes. There's only a tiny bitty small portion of you that's here on the physical plane. This body of yours, see, we think that this is all that. We think that this is everything. Oh, I'm my body, and I've got to eat fruits and sea moss only and yoni steam, and I've got to lather myself in, what was it called? Black Jamaican castor oil. It's fun. I like doing it. But this is only a small portion of who and what we are, right? There's more of us in the etheric plane, and there's even more of us in the astral plane, and then there's even more of us in the mental plane, and then there's even more of us in the causal plane. See, we think it's reversed. We think that we're a physical body with a little bit of spirit. No, 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 no. We exist as a fraction of what we actually are. That's why reincarnation is a thing. A lot of spiritual stuff doesn't make sense because people think of it from the wrong angle. We think of it from this angle, looking out. You got to look in and up. The reason that you reincarnate, it's almost like, what's a good example? Let's say a hand that's able to regenerate its fingers. You know, a lizard. If you cut off a lizard's tail, it'll regrow. If you cut off one of its limbs, it'll regrow. So you can think of the soul or the etheric body or the astral body as the lizard itself, and your incarnations as the arms and the tail of this lizard. And eventually, say if one of these arms or the tail gets bitten off, it's going to grow back again because it's not finished, because the lizard isn't finished living. The true life is in those higher realms. And because the astral body and the etheric body has a lot of karma to burn, has a lot of unconscious habit patterns that are waiting to be dissolved, right? Or should I say you're still attached to them, then a body continues to manifest so that you can get rid of those attachments, or that you can neutralize those attachments so that you can facilitate change for that astral body. And the whole reason it is an astral body is because it believes that it is attached and identifies with prakriti, with matter. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Elephant Venom. Part of you is in the astral, and a bigger part of you than you realize. Kwaman, peace. Aw, Unicorn Universe says, Travis, you are mega awesome at words, flow of truth. Thank you. Thank you. IDKDKDF, peace, peace. IDKDKDF says, well, if you are aware and you still remain, what's that called? Well, if we give that a title, I've heard some people call such a thing Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti. Okay, so everyone has given answers about how to untie a knot. Tebow Love says, cut it. I mean, you can, but you won't have a string anymore. So I guess I should add, if you wanted to keep the string, how would you untie it? MMK says, untie it in the same way you tied it. Good answer. Alora says, loosen up the edges first, but bit by bit. Good answer. Shango says, follow the same knot pattern in reverse. Good answer, right? And isn't that what we're doing when we study this tree? Isn't that what we're doing? We're studying these patterns of what makes us the way we are. How can we untie this knot if we don't even know how it was formed in the first place? Gerald Sombright, peace, bro, peace. Sherry Berry Charbet, good evenings. Wow, we got quite a few people in the building here. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, Micah says Yoni steam. I don't think that's this is how I'm supposed to be using this Yoni steam, huh? Yoni not included. Society Eject says, so is this what they was talking about in Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism, connecting to the unconscious mind of God? Absolutely. Eggs Blackley. Sakura Kinexus says Piccolo. Yeah, I was going to say Piccolo, but I tried to make it more general. It's really Silky says, I'm late and I want to say thank you for your research. You give a lot of game for free. Me personally, I'm a self-study person. Maybe it will change in the future, but thanks, dog. You're welcome, my friend. Okay, so let's continue. Let us continue. So as far as the knot and the best way to untie that knot. Yeah, so essentially the best way to untie the knot is to go back and figure out how it was tied in the first place, if you can, right? You want to follow, like what Alora said, and kind of loosen up the edges and then kind of trace it back and follow it back. Because if you cut it, you didn't make any progress. In a way, that's just kind of giving up. So the best way is to learn how it got there in the first place. And that's what we do, like even with troubleshooting. I don't know if any of you guys work with electronics or anything like that, but when it comes to fixing computers and something's wrong, and it's not about knowing all the answers right away, right? Even when it comes to psychology, even when it comes to any kind of problem, right? A person that puts out fires, we don't know all the answers off rip, but we approach the problem in a can-do attitude. And if you just analyze what's going on, eventually you'll start to pick up the pieces. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning and see how this problem started, right? Say, for example, if the computer isn't turning on, you start with the basic steps. You make sure the plug works, right? If you need to exchange a different plug, do that. You go through the basics first, right? And you trace your steps and you get more complex as you go. You don't start with the complexities, because sometimes the solution is simple. So you make sure the plug works. You test a different outlet. You try the power button. You make sure that there's nothing, no dust and that kind of thing. Let's say it turns on and it goes a little bit of ways, but it stops at a certain point. So there's different button combinations that you can press to put it in like safe mode or, whatever. But basically, by following the pattern from being simple and getting complex, that's one of the best ways to start to solve the problem from beginning to end. So this is what we're doing with our minds, right? We're tracing our steps backwards because we're not taught this. We're not taught this. All we're taught is how to develop coping mechanisms with our problems, right? Nobody teaches you how to solve your problems. They teach you how to build a shell around it and avoid it. There are some people who are extremely emotionally immature, and what they do is they've only created a small boundary of what they're capable of experiencing, right? So say, for example, there's a lot of painful memories and painful emotions. They cut that out of their being, and they will do everything in their power to avoid those painful emotions and painful feelings, which includes people. If they can control people, which they try to, they will control their emotions so that they don't bring up those negative situations, right? And this is what we have. This is what we have. So we learn that type of behavior from our family and from our culture. There's things that our culture as a whole tries to avoid, right? And then when someone brings it up, everyone gets all upset. You ruined the mood, party pooper, right? Because it's so much easier to keep things the same. Easier. But that's not free will. So freedom, it cannot be granted. Freedom cannot be given, right? You're not given freedom. If you're given, it's not freedom. If it's given to you, you can't be given freedom. Freedom is a characteristic of personal maturity, right? I was just talking about emotionally immature people. Freedom is a characteristic of personal maturity. Write that down if you have to, right? Freedom is something that you develop. Not some Abe Lincoln signing a paper and all of a sudden you're free. That don't even make sense. You didn't become enslaved by somebody signing a paper, right? You got enslaved by force. Assuming this is what really happened, because we weren't there, we don't know. And history is, they did a shitty job at keeping track of everything, so we don't know what really happened, but we know that there were people who were suffering at the hands of others, right? So if you didn't get there that way, then how can you get out of it that way, right? It has to be taken back. It has to be taken back. If it's given to you, what was given can be taken from you. So freedom is a characteristic of personal maturity. Maturity, it can't be a characteristic of a person's personality if it has been given to them, right? Maturity is not something that is given to you. Maturity is earned through experience and deliberation. I learned at my job working at the call center, I learned something profound, and I learned that most adults that I deal with are just grown children in big bodies, right? And maybe if you observe and look around, you'll see that for yourself. Most people are still children, just with old bodies. And what I mean is the behavior and living in a fantasy world. And I don't mean a fantasy world full of beautiful colors and yoni steams. What I mean is living in a world where you're avoiding the truth, where you're making shit up and believing it because it keeps you from dealing with the things that cause pain. That's living in a fantasy world. That's adult children, right? The fact that you will go into a coffee shop and yell at the girl behind the counter because you got charged a $2 fee for using your credit card, that's called being an adult baby, right? There's ways to deal with your issues, and there's ways that are inefficient to deal with your issues. See, if I go to the coffee shop and I scan my card and I get charged a $2 fee just because I use my card, I mean, okay, money comes and goes. And if I like the coffee, then it's all right. If I just happen to stop by there, then I probably won't stop by there again. It's not that girl's fault. She's literally just trying to earn money so she can pay her rent. Why would I waste my breath yelling at her, right? Or any of these Karens who you see on the social media where they're yelling at some employee of some store because something didn't go their way. You're looking at a mind that is not structured to hold up against the weather, right? Very fragile, right? This is not free will. This is called being enslaved. That's a slave. That's a person who's enslaved to their body chemistry. They couldn't stop if they wanted to. That's also emotional immaturity. And these are the people who are raising children. So how can they possibly raise their children to be any better than that? But what I learned from working at the call center is that the vast majority of people that I've ever dealt with are adult children. Now, of course, it varies from degree to degree. Some are more intense, some are not. But this isn't something that you just look at and see. This is told by the behavior. Like I said, freedom is maturity, and it can't be given to you. You can't force someone to be mature, the same way that you can't force your friends and family to explore things that they're not used to. You can't make your Christian auntie understand what Baphomet means. She doesn't have a desire to do that. Well, see, it's not really the devil. See, the goat head represents this, and he's sitting on top of the world, and he's got wings, and he got titties, and basically that represents. She's not going to hear any of that. All she's going to hear is the devil, and you need to come back to church. We miss you at the church. That's it. Because she is also bound to her patterns. And guess what? You're bound to your patterns because you feel like you have to prove to her that what you're doing isn't bad. You're trying so hard to prove and get that validation. That ain't freedom. Uh-oh. Can I get a hello in these streets? Shango says in the astral there's a secret river of yoni. Imagine that. Kevros SS God says, I had a dream where I became a member of your channel. Well, don't just leave it as a dream. Make it a reality. Make manifest. Moss Dweller says, reverse engineering the knot. Absolutely. Eggs Blackley. Shay Sade, peace. Society Eject says, approach the problem and a can-do attitude is key. Right. Any situation, no matter what situation you're in, if you approach it with a can-do attitude, you're bound to find the solution. You're bound to find it. But if you sit there complaining about shit and moping and crying and blaming other people and trying to avoid the truth, you are a part of the problem. And you're also a part of nature. You're an animal. Just to put it blunt. If there's no free will, then you're still part of the animal kingdom and only the animal kingdom. Now, the other parts of you exist in the astral plane and the mental plane and the causal plane, but the difference is they're unconscious. You have no direct influence over those aspects of yourself. Everybody out there, even the NPCs, right? Everybody out there has a connection to the soul and the mental plane and the astral body and all that stuff. The difference is it's unconscious. So really, it doesn't serve them at all to even know about it because they can't even use it. That's like me saying that you have inherited $1 million, but you can't spend any of it. Like, what's the point? I would rather you have not told me, right? But the difference is here, this $1 million that you have inherited, that you are an heir to, it's yours once you become of age, right? Just like how if you got a CD bank account for your child and they can only tap into it once they're 18, right? You can keep putting money in there, and you know that they're not going to touch it until they're old enough, and hopefully they're mature enough by that time to use that money wisely. Well, that's the same thing when it comes to free will. It's out there for you, but you got to be mature. You got to come of age in order to be able to inherit it. And just like you don't become 18 all of a sudden, it takes experience and time and space to develop properly. Likewise, it comes with this emotional maturity and this free will. You grow into it. It's not just all of a sudden you're commanding lightning bolts to strike down at people, or you're levitating, or doing any of these things that you see people doing in the mountains of Tibet. By the time you're able to do that stuff, if you become able to do that stuff, there will be absolutely no desire to show off. No desire whatsoever. Because you know that will put you back into your enslavement. Oh my God, he can float. He must be the greatest. I worship you, right? And that'll quickly lead you back down to where you just came from. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, 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 yeah. Doing the butt. I can't believe that was a national hit. Doing the butt. Who okayed that? Who let that song get on the radio? Ain't nothing wrong if you want a little butt all night long. Yeah, yeah. Who okayed that song? Who made the decision and said, yep, we're going to sell this record? I love this species. We miss you at the church. They've been asking about you. Framestar Films, what's up, my friend? Alex Cuckoo, peace, peace. I got to get back to you on that background track, man. I'm not like keeping my music a secret. When you ask me the question of what song is that, in my head, I'm seeing a vision of myself having to scroll through my history and finding what video it is. And during that process, my mind goes to something else. I'll get you that song. Because now I've just identified my own process. Now it's no longer unconscious. You see how that works? When we have a problem, it goes through a process. You don't just have a problem. You're literally doing something to make that. You do a problem. You have to do it. A problem is the thing that you have to do. So if it's something that you have to do, it's just like what I was saying about the computers and troubleshooting. If you want to solve it, go to the beginning and track the process that happens. And if you track the process that happens, then you can maybe adjust it. So I just identified why I never responded to you, Alex Cuckoo, when you asked me what was the background music for one of my videos. It's because I had whenever I saw that comment and I think about getting the song for you, I think of me scrolling through the history of all those videos and tracking the date and figuring out which one it was. And it starts to get overwhelming to the point that my mind switches off and I go to a different subject. So now that it has been brought to my conscious awareness, I will override it the next time. I just demonstrated for you, all of you, how you can start the process of becoming liberated from your unconscious impulses. You have to become conscious of them. That's what shadow work is. Shadow work is not giving yourself a hug in the mirror. Shadow work is understanding why you do what you do, because why you do what you do is hidden in the shadow. And if you haven't already, you should consider joining my shadow work mastery system, because I'm teaching stuff in here that you're not going to get from any other shadow working course. Ask about it, because some people are already having success and we didn't even get to it yet. Baphomet. And see the titties represent. No, I don't like that. That's the devil. Ooh, Society Eject says, Travis, I'm starting to understand now with this shadow work course and Gyan Yoga. Once you better offer that foundation and really understand it, You don't even have to work with spirits. Boom. Boom. When was the last time you heard me talk about, all right, y'all, this is how you work with this demon and this angel and this spirit? You don't have to, because all of those entities are only symbolic representations of cosmic forces. You can work directly with the cosmic forces. You don't have to have a placeholder. That's what we did in church, right? We had a placeholder for a placeholder. You went to church to talk to the pastor, so the pastor will talk to Jesus for you. That's a whole lot of insulation, right? I want to get raw. I want to get right in there. I don't need the pastor. I don't need a symbolic representation. Give me the power. Give me the power. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. Alora says, are you saying that I'm doing all this shadow work and the chances of me levitating is close to none? I quit. I didn't say close to none. I'm just saying, by the time you get it, you might grow a beard. Alora with a beard. That would be a funny sight. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. I'm gonna have to play that song when I get off of here. Alora says it was the same people who let the thong song get famous. I would say the thong song is in a different category. Now, that was actually a good song. The beat was really nice, right? Little violins playing, and Cisco brought a certain energy to it. And I mean, it was relatable. It was relatable. The lyrics were relatable. I could identify with that. The video was very nice. But hey, maybe the Doing the Butt song was relatable back in the 80s. As a matter of fact, that's probably why, because everybody ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong if you do a little butt all night long. I need to speak with the people who let that fly. Society Eject says, back in the day, they used to think if you do it in the butt, you won't get pregnant. Oh, man. Monstroller says, accepting total responsibility is key. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God, that's funny. Elephant Venom says, mastery doesn't happen overnight. Exactly. Hekate, peace. Doing the butt. Everybody needs to go look that song up after we finish this live stream, just so you can see how ridiculous it is. Just so you can see how ridiculous. And I want you to ask yourself, how did this become a national phenomenon? Maybe it was the collective unconscious of our human race. Alora says, damn, it'd be a glitter beard. Yeah, sounds familiar. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, Shango says it actually became famous because it was in Spike Lee's movie School Days. Okay, all right. That makes sense. See, I was thinking the song just came out and became a national hit. But if it was in a very popular movie, culturally significant, it makes sense. Virgo Bliss says it was a dance. I'm an 80s baby. I was little doing the dance. Okay, so it was a dance. It was in a movie. Now it's starting to make sense. See, this is why you guys are here, to help me learn. Now I understand. Now let's get back to free will. Now that we understand why. Now we can change the song. I'm speeding. R. Kelly. Money rain on me. R. Kelly, Rick Ross. I'm speeding. Okay. All right. So free will cannot be granted. It can't be given to you. It can't be written on a Declaration of Independence. The forefathers who supposedly took this country, it wasn't given to them. They had to fight for it and earn it. They had to become a mature nation of individuals and prove that they were able to stand on their own 2 feet with them high ass socks and the belt buckle on the shoe. They had to prove that they could pull themselves up on their bootstraps and stand firm without needing mommy England to take care of them. They matured to the point where they were able to stand independently, right? It wasn't given to them. You can't give freedom to somebody the same way you can't give maturity to somebody. You grow into it. Likewise, when it comes to free will, this is something you grow into once you're able to let go of the crutches of familiarity. A big reason why people reach a point where they get afraid is because it's unfamiliar, right? Think about your own spiritual journey. You've learned a lot, right? You know what these symbols mean. You learned some new words. You've even impressed yourself with some of the things that you found that you're capable of. But there is still a limit. There's still something that you look at and it makes you uneasy and you're kind of like, you either say I'm afraid of that or I'm not ready for that yet, or there's some line that you haven't crossed, right? And that has everything to do with the fact that it's uncertain. You don't know what's going to happen when you cross that line. Now, this isn't anything bad. That doesn't mean you're a weak person, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're emotionally immature, but it does mean that you can recognize that your ego has limitations. Because really, it's the ego that's saying, hey, I don't know what to expect. Let's stay away from this. We're not ready for it yet. It's the ego that does that. But once you get to the point where I don't care what happens, I'm straight. Once you get that as your mindset, then those fears start to dissolve and you're able to walk into uncharted territories with your head held up high and your socks and your bootstraps. You're able to stomp forward into the darkness and realize that you don't even need light because you are the light. You become the light when you understand that everything you need is generated from your source, not from the external environment. Because it makes sense, right? If you're expecting your external environment to feed you and liberate you, then of course, if it's dark, you're going to wonder, where am I going to get my sustenance from? But if you start to learn to rely upon the inner source, the soul, that which exists beyond nature, if you understand that what actually fuels you and sustains you is something that is beyond what you can see, hear, feel, taste, touch, smell, once you recognize that what fuels you is beyond all this, you become that light, right? You become that light and you're able to walk forward and do anything without feeling afraid and wondering, oh my God, where's it going to come from? How am I going to pay my rent this month? I can't do this. And what are they going to do? And what if they find out? You don't worry about that stuff anymore because you understand that the inner light is activated, and that's where reality is generated from. Notice I'm illustrating a picture here. There's a difference between people who respond to their environment and those who make their environment respond to them. That's the difference. Spiritual maturity, free will, is a person who understands that the environment responds to them. People who don't have free will don't understand that, so they respond to the environment. I mean, if you're responding to the environment, if you're making every choice based on something else that already happened, right? That's by default not free will, right? If somebody claps and then you jump and decide to dance, you have been influenced by that clap. Now, if you're just here and you're blissful and peaceful and you decide to express your bliss through dance, that's called free will because you've decided to do it from a higher place. And when I say a higher place, I mean you've decided to do it from a place that isn't dependent on the environment. The environment didn't make you dance. You decided to dance. I decided to make this video because this is how I want to express my connection with my higher self. And I love it. I don't feel obligated. I'm smiling because this is fun. I get to sing Doing the Bud and I'm Speeding by R. Kelly just because I want to, not because I have to. Now, granted, we could say that those songs are stuck in my head because the environment played it for me. All right. I'm not saying I'm completely above being influenced. But what I did say before is that there are two polar distinctions and graduated levels in between. Right? I'm speeding. I'm speeding. I'm speeding. That video sucks. But most of the times that R. Kelly sings, it's pretty awesome. Outside of ejects, I don't know nothing about this Russian doll stuff y'all talking about. I'm speeding. Chelsea Bangs, peace. Chelsea Bangs says, we had a mantra in this Buddhist group I hung with. Fuck it, I'ma be all right. Okay, it's a different mantra. Higher Understanding says, right, I don't care happens, I'ma be good no matter what. Everything is a learning experience. Exactly. Exactly. I'm speeding. Hikate Goddess says, that message is for me at this moment. I'm a little nervous on something I'm doing and you just giving me the good vibes. Yeah. Travis Harris says, being aware of the influence is the key. Right. Because then it's no longer unconscious. Ain't nothing wrong, right, for a song to be stuck in your head. Because here's the thing. Well, shit, I haven't heard that song in a very long time, maybe even years. It just came up out of the unconscious. But here's the thing. When you become aware of it, now you have a choice of what to do. Now it becomes free will. See, if you're unaware of it and it's unconscious, you don't have a choice. You just go with it. But if the song is in my head and I understand how it's influencing me and where that influence is coming from, I make the choice now. Shango says, you return back to the Fool card, capable of utilizing each and all elements according to its proper and pure usage. Yes, sir. Virgo Bliss says, do you think a person can completely overcome lifelong mental health issues through spirituality? Well, my question is, what is spirituality? Right? That's a word, but I don't know what that means. I don't know how you define that word spirituality. Now, just if we take that part off, do you think a person can completely overcome lifelong mental health issues? Absolutely. 1000%. You're not bound to anything as long as you make it conscious, right? Mental health issues is caused by unconscious factors, is it not? Depression, ADHD, hell, even some physical ailments, right? Physical sicknesses and diseases are caused by unconscious factors. But when you bring these things to the forefront, you can start working with them. So yeah, to answer your question, yes. I don't know what you mean by spirituality, but maybe you do. Yes, there is an answer for everything, especially mental health issues. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. Ain't nothing wrong. All night long. Atropa says, yes, I don't worry about it. Always works out for me. That's what I keep trying to explain to Mother that is an over worrier. I tell her to stop speaking and thinking these things into existence. Right. So here's the thing. You have the greatest power in the universe, and that is the power of your awareness. It is through your awareness that allows you to facilitate change. It's your awareness. And if you're not aware of the most important aspects of what drives you, you're not in control of yourself. But the thing is, what you throw and cast your awareness upon, you're feeding it. You're giving it life. You're giving it your prana. You create it. You make it real. You bring life to it. And that's what we do as maguses and magusettes. We bring things to life, right? We bring things to life. We vivify with our awareness. So if you choose to take your God-given awareness and focus on, oh my God, Joe Biden, vaccine, oh this and that and the third, and they're going to do, you're feeding that. Now, I'm not saying you're making it come to existence in the world at large, but you're definitely making it a big deal in your personal life, are you not? Y'all, they taking the kids and they drinking the adrenochrome and we gotta. Whether that's true or not, look what you're doing to yourself. Look what kind of world you're creating for yourself. You're doing that. Don't do that. There's more efficient things that you could be doing with your awareness than worrying about somebody slurping up some adrenochrome. Have you ever seen an adrenochrome? Have you ever seen the gland that so-called produces this adrenochrome? Have you ever seen anyone? You know what I'm saying? There's so many questions we could ask. Adra Mosel says, whatever vibe it is you got going on right now looks good on you. Just saying. Thank you. Elephant Venom says mental disorders come from the unconscious. Absolutely. Matthew Barrow says if you claim it, you own it. Right. Straight Panther says audio dropped. Can y'all hear me? Is this thing on? I'm speeding. I'm speeding. Can y'all not hear me? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. I'm speeding. I'm speeding. Chelsea Banks says this video is low-key hyping me up to go do something that I get stuck with just thinking about it. Right? And remember what I said. Alex, in one of the comments for a couple of videos ago, asked me to send him the music to one of my videos. And like I said, I never did it because I just remembered I look at his comment and I unconsciously project an image of myself having to scroll through my history. And I'm thinking about how much time that's going to take. And I'm thinking about I'm going to get distracted. I don't want to da-da-da-da. And because of that little movie I made for myself, I psych myself out of completing the task. So with what you're saying right here, Chelsea Banks, you said this video is low-key hyping me up to go do something that I get stuck with just thinking about it. Change the video, change the movie that here's what I'm doing now. I'm thinking Alex has asked me for the music to that video. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to find it easily. I'm going to copy and paste it in the comments and he's going to get it in like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, right? I feel so good doing it. And he's going to feel good because he's got the music. And that is a side quest completed, right? That's a much better video, much better picture to paint. So if you've got something in your life that is complex and you don't feel like doing it, and when you sit down and think about, okay, so here's the thing. If there's something in your life that you have trouble doing, try to analyze what's going on in your head before you do it. More than likely, you're playing a video that is taking away your energy instead of giving you energy. Or even worse, you're talking to yourself. Oh, you'll never do that. This is for other people. This isn't for you. You're not good enough. You're not qualified enough. They're going to laugh at you. Nobody loves you. You're ugly. You're fat. You might have that dialogue going on. Well, change that dialogue. Change the dialogue. Look, it's easy. Y'all, it's easy. It's not hard. It's not hard. None of this stuff is hard. None of it. I'm speeding. I'm speeding. Society Eject says, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Proverbs 18:21. Yes, sir. Eggs Blackley. Petropa says, sometimes songs pop into my head and I notice there's a reason why and what it is they're trying to convey to me. Yeah, that's what I was going to also say. And it's not simply like the song gets stuck in my head. I find that if I follow that song and then go listen to it, then something else starts to come up from the unconscious. So here's the thing. Your unconscious mind is smarter than your conscious mind. It's always on. It doesn't stop. It is older than your conscious mind. It is more developed. And it is more intelligent. So if something is brought up from your unconscious mind, well, that's a big sign that that might be something to follow, right? A lot of people are afraid to meditate and afraid to be quiet because of what arises when they're still, right? They try to run away from it. Well, here's the thing. Why do you think your unconscious mind is trying to bring that up? Because maybe it's something you need to deal with. I could be wrong, but maybe it's something you need to deal with, right? It was really cool. On a recent consultation I had, I don't think she's here in the chat, so she won't mind if I share it. I won't say her name, but basically, we were just going through some of her issues, right? And one of the images that came to mind, she's like, I don't know why, but I see myself. First off, the negative vision she had a vision of, or the positive thing was she saw herself floating on top of a pool, right? Just chilling, relaxed, floating on top of water. She's like, I don't know why I have this vision, but I see myself floating on top of the water. Then we keep on going some more. And then she was able to pull up some unconscious memories that weren't there until she was able to bring them up during this meditation. And she saw, you know what I'm saying, being really young, wearing a bathing suit for the first time. And she felt so uncomfortable in her body. And this dude started making fun of her. And that caused her to be very insecure, right? So how do you think that connects with her vision of bliss floating on top of a pool, like on one of those floating devices, just floating, right? As we went further along, it turned out that started a complex about her and her self-esteem. So we were able to connect that vision of her that her unconscious mind wanted for her. The unconscious mind wanted for her to float on top of that pool, right? It wanted for her to do that. But here's the thing: the unconscious mind speaks in images, it speaks in symbols, and it speaks in relationships and relationships of symbols. So that wasn't an arbitrary image. That was what the unconscious mind projected for her as an image of bliss, as an image of her being healed from that insecurity. So if you got a song that's just popped up, or if you got some kind of image or some kind of scenario, some kind of memory, because look, I know a lot of y'all also are, because what I was talking about, right? You're experiencing it now where these random memories are starting to become unlocked now, right? Let me know if in the chat, if this is starting to happen to you now, especially if you're in my course. But these random memories start being unlocked because once you go inward and upward, these things start coming out of the unconscious, because your unconscious is now starting to get comfortable with your conscious mind. Now it knows that you're becoming mature enough to handle those memories. So if you're having these things pop up, analyze them and consider what's the symbolic meaning, right? So a lot of you guys, I know you're having these unconscious memories come up that you thought you forgot. You're also having crazy synchronicities. I'm talking about more. And there's a third symptom that's happening. I'll post it in the course. But there's a third thing that's happening as well. These are all signs that you're making progress and you're doing the work and you're actually making change. I'm telling you, like, it's not a coincidence that this stuff is happening to you. Good stuff. Again, hit the like button if you haven't already. Shango says, rewrite your script. It doesn't have to be a drama all the time. Add humor to your life. Make it a dramedy, right? Make it fun. Make it beautiful. Like, I love this right here, right? You see these colors, right? You see this. You see the smoke and mirrors, right? You see the spider web over here, right? I love it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And you should feel that way about your life too. You should feel like that about your life too. All right, so we're talking about free will. I'm going off on other stuff too. So again, free will is not something that can be given to you. It has to be, you attain it through maturity. You attain it through your maturity. So the reason that spiritual teachings and techniques don't work for some people is because you remain unaware of your condition. You can learn all the magic tricks. You can learn all the NLP stuff, right? Because I know some of y'all are looking into it now. Is it by design? I know there's a bunch of stuff that you're getting into and you're trying, you're not really having results. Well, it isn't because the techniques are faulty. Because yeah, you can do like Bobby Hemmett and heal yourself with peach soda. Sure, you can do anything you want. But the reason this stuff isn't working for you is because you still have unconscious programs that are blocking the results. Think about it. If Bobby Hemmett said he's able to drink a peach soda and heal himself, and you sit here and you can't do it, what's happening when you're drinking that peach soda? Oh man, this is stupid. Well, maybe he had a different brand of peach soda, or maybe I'm not smart enough. All those are unconscious programmings that are blocking your progress. So until you get rid of all that stuff, you're not really going to be able to do much, or at least not much is going to stick. Because there's another thing that happens. You might do it the first 2, 3, 4 times, but then as time goes on, the effect starts to wear off and you're like, oh, it's not working anymore. Maybe it was only temporary, right? So in our ignorance of our unconscious habits, in our ignorance, we deceive ourselves into thinking that our freedom and our independence was granted to us just because we were born. We believe that we have free will. God gave it to us just because we were born. Well, I was born as a human, so that means I got free will. It's free. It's my right to be free because I'm a human being. Well, no, that's not how it works. Because here's the thing: being born is not a separate process from nature. All animals are born, right? A fly is born. Everything is born. Birth places us on the exact same level as the animals in the animal kingdom. A dog was born today. A giraffe was born today. An elephant, a crocodile was born today. A little baby was born today. A little ugly baby was born today. We're all born into the physical plane. That's not a badge of free will, right? If anything, that's a you can look at it more of like a prison sentence, right? Because depending on the family you're born into and the environment that you're born into, you're going to start picking up a lot of those unconscious habits, or some would say generational curses, passed down from one generation to the next, mentally, culturally, and even in your DNA, right? So it's not because you were born a human or you were born with spicy melanin, you get free will. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. So it's not just because you were born you got free will. So scratch that. If that's what you thought, scratch that. You being born means you've inherited karma. You've inherited habits and desires, right? So if I was born in Canada, I wouldn't have the same desires as if I was born in Southeast Georgia. I wouldn't have the same desires as if I was born in Australia, right? Because the cultures are different. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. You wouldn't be doing what you were doing if you were born anywhere differently. In fact, the situation might even be worse, because the chances of being born into an NPC family and becoming an NPC are maybe 80 out of 100, 80% likelihood, 90% likelihood. So how can a process that is inherent to all creatures bestow upon you a gift that other creatures cannot realize? How dogs are born, cats are born, they don't know free will. Other people are born and they don't know free will. So how can birth be it? Well, all animals are born, and birth is not an entitlement to free will. It's not an entitlement to evolution, right? Evolution and liberation come with maturity. It comes with maturity. So when we realize that our genetic and our cultural influence upon our experience, right? When we start realizing that, that's called maturity. That's evolution. When you come to realize the genetic influence, the cultural influence, right? Because these things are vying for control at all times. Two separate streams. Long ago, if you were with me on my channel when I studied the book Mimetic Magic, he talked about the root social matrix. Well, basically, this is what the root social matrix is comprised of: a genetic memory and a cultural memory fused together. So people don't have to think, they just follow what the genetics tell them to do and what the culture tells them to do. Can you hear me? Testes 1 2. Can you hear me? I got the hookup. Holla if you hear me. Make them say na 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 na. Make them say na 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 na. Okay, looks like we're back. Cool beans. K Carbon, peace. Hecate Goddess says, we always heard you. Oh, dang. Shouldn't have said what I said. Straight Panther, you had them earbuds on again. That's what it was. We Grow Natural. Welcome. Okay, good. So we can continue our speech that we were speaking about. Free will and about being born, and how being born is not an entire thing is born. The rat under your house that you can't seem to get rid of was born, and you don't have free will. Comes with maturity, right? Comes with maturity. And that maturity includes becoming aware of your genetic influence and aware of your cultural influence. Those are the things that make you do what you do. And if you're unconscious of the genetic and cultural influence, then it's going to push and propel you without your awareness. So the unconscious mind is vast. You can't just figure it all out at once. You figure it out in portions. Your awareness expands. The metaphor that I keep using and I love using is that the unconscious mind is a lot like a warehouse, like an Amazon warehouse with everything in it. The problem is the lights are not on. So you walk in that warehouse with your flashlight. That flashlight is your awareness, right? So you're in the unconscious mind, vast, huge, massive library of stuff. And all you got is your itty bitty flashlight. And whatever you shine the flashlight on is what you're aware of at any given. So all that stuff is back there for sure, but you're only aware of what the flashlight is on. Now, when you become more aware of your unconscious mind, it's almost as if you can enter a room and maybe take a lantern and leave it there, or maybe cut on a flashlight so that a portion of that warehouse remains illuminated, right? Because when you truly become conscious of unconscious patterns, they no longer influence you against your will. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. But when you realize your genetic and your cultural influence upon your experience, you start to see the bigger picture, right? You start to see the influences that lead to your creation, physically and emotionally and mentally, right? You start to see the cause to the effect that is you. That's a big deal, because how can you know the end result of something if you don't know how it began? The bigger picture is what it's about. And when you can become a complete person, an integrated person, because in the shadow work course we talk about integration. That's one of the higher levels of your spiritual awakening, right? That's the first part of the course, talking about these different levels. When you become integrated, you become complete, right? More and more complete. And what that actually means is you become a force that is beyond external influence. You become something that is beyond external influence. That's what being an integrated person is. So a person who's emotionally immature, a person who is underdeveloped, an adult baby, an NPC, they're not beyond external influence. As a matter of fact, they can't do much without external influence. That's why they have to have the radio on. That's why they have to have somebody to talk to. That's why they have to bitch and complain and fight and argue and have sex all the time. Because in their minds, they don't exist without external influence. So they're not a complete integrated person. They're part of nature. In order to be a complete and integrated person, you have to get to the point where you start to become beyond external influence. Now, sure, the body is part of the environment, so the body will always be influenced. But even at this level of integration, you can start to control that, right? You can start to, because this is, I mean, if you really look at these yogis and these swamis and what they're able to do, they start to control their unconscious body behavior, like their heart rate, their blood pressure, their breathing, their blinking, even to the point of controlling when they die, right? To die on command. That takes an extreme level of body control. To get to that point, Swami Satyananda had to have unlocked a massive portion of his unconscious mind. And I believe that's the key and the goal of both Kabbalah and Samkhya yoga. Realizing the unconscious aspects of self and bringing them into conscious awareness, right? Is that not know thyself? Is that not union between the high and the low? So shadow work is more than just kumbaya, my lord, I forgive my inner child. It's more than that. It's about understanding everything that's in the shadow, the good and the bad, because there's a lot of good stuff there too. But it's not about the good or the bad. It's about understanding and becoming aware of all the influences so that you can be above the influence. Remember, they had that campaign for helping people get off of drugs and smoking and alcohol, above the influence. Because even addictions are caused by unconscious influences. So yeah, the more integrated we are, the more we are independent of nature's conditioning. Destiny and free will, they run parallel to each other, believe it or not, right? We always think of this dichotomy of destiny or free will. Either the world is determined and, you don't have no choice. My astrological chart says that I've got a stellium in the third house, so Venus, there's destiny, but there's also free will, right? The difference is one is determined by the external, one determines the external. It's not an either or situation though. They run parallel to each other. They run side by side. Guess what determines what track you're on? The awareness, that flashlight. So if you are unaware of the factors that control your behavior, you're definitely on the autopilot track. You're definitely on the track of destiny. But the more aware that you become of the influences that determine your behavior, you're starting to get over onto that free will track, right? The tracks are side by side. It's not either free will or destiny. It's both. And it depends on you. It's both. And we need that, right? Because it's good because destiny provides context to structure reality. Destiny is what keeps the order in this universe. That's why astrology is able to predict and tell what's happening where and how and why. That's why if you look at your Vedic birth chart, at your Vedic natal chart, it'll literally document your life up to this point and beyond and be accurate. Because these energies and influences have been given a structure to follow. right? Because you're a part of a whole. Like I said, this physical body is only a fraction of what you actually are. So that whole has an organizational system. It has an organizational system that influences everything. It's not just about you. It's about everybody and everything here. So there is a structure in place. That's what destiny is all about. But the thing is, there's always that opportunity for liberation, right? For free will and liberation. And it has to be earned with maturity. Because, I mean, hypothetically speaking, if one were to become liberated and not be mature, you are, likely to tear the whole system up because somebody didn't put enough cheese on your potato chips, or you got charged an extra $2 at the cash register, right? That's why non-attachment is so important. That's why non-attachment is what leads you to liberation, because you stop being influenced by the illusion. Wow, an hour and 37 minutes? It didn't even feel like that. I thought it was maybe 45 minutes. I'll tell you what, man, once I start going, time slows down. Time slows all the way down. So yeah, destiny provides a good context and a good structure to reality. So we need that, or rather, the whole system needs that. But for the individual, you come to realize that there is also free will, and that exists because there is life beyond nature. And when you deal with free will, you're dealing with life and consciousness beyond nature. So our true nature is what we call the soul, right? Know thyself. We're not talking about know your body. We're not talking about know your ancestors. It ain't know your culture. No, that's not what it is. Because those things are illusions, and one day they will disappear, never to be recovered again. It's about know thy soul. So when we say know thyself, it's know thy soul. Soul transcends and exceeds nature because nature is activated by soul. Nature wouldn't even be a thing if it wasn't for soul. Nature would be lying dormant, mula prakriti, in complete harmony and balance, mind you. Nature exists the way it does because of soul, not the other way around. Soul doesn't exist because of nature. You're not going to find the soul in the body. Soul is what is beneath and beyond the physical plane, and the physical plane patterns itself after the soul. So to become conscious of the soul is to truly transcend the limits of nature, because you can't find the soul in nature. You can see the effects of soul in nature, but you're not going to find the soul in nature. To become conscious of the soul is to truly transcend the limitations of nature, because you have to transcend the limits of nature to be able to perceive the soul. Doesn't it make sense? Only through knowledge of self. Only through knowledge of self. Self being the soul, not the body. Once again, knowledge of self, know thyself, does not mean know your physical body, does not mean know your ancestors, does not mean know your melanin, it doesn't mean know your culture. Nope, that's not what know thyself means, because all those things are temporary. It's know thy soul. That supersedes all the illusion. So when we follow the urges of the body and the desires of the animal, guess what we're doing? We're acting unconsciously. When you're following that impulse, the urge of the body, the desire of the body, that's you acting unconsciously, because you don't think about, well, where am I getting this urge from? No, you just go do it. You just go do it. And then you think, damn, I shouldn't have done that. I can't believe I did that, right? Well, why'd you do it in the first place? It's because we're operating out of an unconscious mode, an unconscious mode. Being driven and pulled by nature, it's automatic. It's robotic. Do you hear that? It's automatic and robotic. It's mechanical. We're slaves to destiny and slaves to karma if everything we do is based on an impulse of the body and of the memory. Did I hear somebody say artificial intelligence? Right? You're scared of these Terminator robots coming to get you, but not realizing that you are the Terminator robot. This is an organic machine. It's an organic machine. You are artificial intelligence. Until you know thyself, you can't be anything but artificial intelligence. Nature outside, the trees, the sun going up and down, All these things are a result of artificial intelligence. And I say artificial because the artifice, what's being copied, is the soul. The soul is life. Nature is a reflection of the soul. Nature is an imitation of the soul. Nature is an artificial version of soul. That's why you are artificial intelligence and all this is artificial intelligence. It's not just a computer that can talk. Oh, did you hear what they made artificial intelligence say? It said that it's going to do this and that. And what are you talking about? No, it's bigger than that. Movies did quite a number on us, did it not? Hollywood. So consciousness and intuition are actually gateways to the soul. Your consciousness and intuition are gateways to the soul. They act as agents, as representatives of the soul, right? So, like I said, you're not going to find the soul as it is in nature. It's only a reflection. The closest thing you got to soul is your intuition and your conscience. These things are reflective of the pure essence of soul within nature. So that's the closest you're going to get. That's why we actually have these different gods and goddesses that we work with, because they too are representatives of something that's very of the closest part of nature to the soul, right? We're at a very unique place because we're operating within the most pristine, highest part, but also the lowest part of Purusha, right? So we're at this nice little pocket of infinite potential. But it's good to listen to your intuition, and it's good to listen to your conscience, because these things are they act as doorways to experiencing the soul. The information that's coming down through your intuition, it's not coming through your memory and through your body and through your surroundings. It's coming from something that is beyond those things. That's what makes intuition so special, because it's coming from a place that is beyond your sensory perceptions. And same thing with conscience. Conscience is a little bit more mingled with memory, but it's still coming from a place beyond ego. So that's why there are doorways to the soul, conscience and intuition. They're doorways to the soul because they're closer to the soul than your body is and than your ego is. The more that we connect to these agents of consciousness, the more that we connect to the conscience and the intuition, the better we're able to comprehend the wisdom of soul, right? The more that we connect with intuition, the more that we connect with our conscience, the more that you're able to comprehend the wisdom of soul. You're not able to comprehend the wisdom of soul if your intuition is underdeveloped. Only then do we start to create our world and create true freedom. Only then. True freedom is not about money, right? My brothers were telling me just the other night how you might be able to sign a record deal, right? Say, for example, everyone who signs with Birdman gets $1 million off rip. Get $1 million contract off rip. That's not $1 million to spend. You got to pay that money back with interest, right? So it isn't about money. It isn't about stuff. That's not freedom. Freedom and free will only starts when you are able to understand and comprehend the wisdom of the soul. So I'll say all that to wrap it up and say that the only human freedom is to know thyself. Everything else is slavery and suffering. And that's on Nanda and them. That's on Nanda. Sivananda, Satyananda, Satyasangananda, Niranjana Nanda. That's on Nanda. Swami Travananda, Negro Nanda, Nityananda. Maybe not Nityananda. I don't know him like that. Spirit Girl says, question for Trav or anyone else. I finished reading Taught with Shuddhi. Good. Without doing the meditations. Oh. Is there any book about yantras and mantras you guys would recommend? Why don't you get Yantra and Mantra by Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati? That's a good one. Yantra and Mantra by Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati. Who better to explain those concepts than somebody from the same camp? Nityananda. The only Swami with a theme song. MC Maestro, peace, bro. Moss Dweller says, how can you always be leading if you're influenced entirely by genetic and cultural factors? Precisely. He says, if you're influenced entirely by genetic and cultural factors. Look, I'm not going to pretend to be no damn Superman, right? I'm influenced as well. But the thing is, the degree of the influence makes all the difference. Some people cannot resist their body urges. They can't resist their body urges. They can't stop it. Or even some people can't resist the need to fight and defend themselves. They might see something in the comments and they got to jump in and speak their piece, or they got to prove to somebody that they know something, or you can't even, right? I've seen situations where there's two people and somebody says something and I can smell the fight about to start, and then I'll go and I'll try to neutralize it, like, it's cool, whatever, change the subject. No, they bypass everything and they have to continue that clash. They have to fight it out. That's called unconscious behavior. And you can see it happening too. Society Eject says, so Gabriel, creating our body and our DNA off of our parents' archetype and emotional body. Yep. Uh-huh. Uh-oh. That's a lot of chat that just went by. I'm reading the chat here just so I can see if there's any questions or anything that I missed. Society Eject says, yep, for people to understand what you're saying, Travis, they have to understand that the soul is not in the body, right? And as common as that is to you and I, like, there's a lot of people who don't see it that way. And it's not their fault. It's what they've been given. Really, it's really hard for me to get upset at people. Like, I can't get mad at anybody. I can understand why Christ said, forgive them for they know not what they do. It's true. It's true. No matter how ridiculous these people behave, they don't know any better. If they did, they would do better. That's the thing. Like, so I understand that the unconscious mind and everything that it presents to me, it has good intentions. Well, I'm starting to think that also people as well, because everyone is doing what they do in an effort to reduce their suffering and to increase their pleasure. Those are good intentions to that person. Now, how it actually translates, that's a different story. But when I look around and I start seeing, like, thinking about the conspiracy theories, usually that's just something that you heard somebody say. Somebody painted a picture for you and you accepted it, but you don't know what's going on. But now I'm seeing, like, maybe, just maybe, what we have out here is a result of good intentions gone sour, like the GMO stuff, right? I was talking to my brother last night about this whole GMO stuff, and he's saying how you got to watch the food that you eat and the fruit because it's all genetically modified, da 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 da. And I'm like, well, why do you think that they would create GMO foods? And the conclusion we came to was that, well, maybe the demand for the supply of food is increased to the point that it is unnatural. So they have to create a solution to feed all these hungry mouths. Now, that's a good intention. You want to feed the people that live here. Now, how it actually comes out, maybe that's not the best, right? But I don't think that they created GMO foods so that they can poison the population and fuck up the DNA. You know what I'm saying? Like, that type of thought process alone comes from a mind who has some hurt emotions that aren't dealt with. For you to see the world as evil like that, that shows that you have been hurt and it hasn't been solved yet. To see the world as a dangerous place means that you got something that you got to work on. Because if you can see the world however you want, we just talked about how you can focus on whatever you want. Well, that applies to you too. If you see the world as a dangerous, scary place and everyone's trying to hurt you, you probably have not healed from your pain. This is not a scary place where people want to hurt you. This is a place full of people just trying to make it. And some people are thriving and surviving, and some people not so much. But everybody just wants to be free of their pain and suffering. Everybody wants to be free of their suffering. There are no enemies. Maybe you can understand why I say that now. They trying to get us, y'all. We gotta fight. We gotta. No, we don't got to do nothing. You got to wipe that mindset up out of your head because it's limiting how you see the world. I got soul and I'm super bad. Mm-hmm. That's on Nanda. Shohei, greetings. Shohei asks Trav, what do shamans do in dreams? The same thing shamans do when they're awake? You're going to have to specify that question a whole lot more because that's extremely general. What shamans? What's a shaman? Who says that they're doing anything in dreams? What kind of dreams? I need a little bit more. Because if you ask me what do shamans do in dreams, then I'll probably answer they dream. Alligator says, thanks for expounding on free will. I appreciate the interpretation, and I used to think it was something that made us different than animals, LOL. Yeah. And it is, right, once it's achieved, but until that point, it is an illusion. Society EJ says, that's on Bihar and them. Right. It's on Bihar and them. Spirit Girl says, oh, since you're answering, what about the cow dung part, the basma? If you're able to do it, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But before you worry about the cow dung part, do the meditations. That's the most important thing. Don't worry about the cow dung. Do the meditation itself. That's what you need to do. Jump into it. That's the best way to learn. You're only going to learn maybe 30% out of a book. The other 70, you're only going to learn 20% out of the book. The other 80% comes from you actually doing it. The more that you do it, the more that it's going to begin to unveil and unlock information that you couldn't have gotten from a book. So do that meditation. Good stuff. Good stuff. Atropa says, I ordered Tatwashuti on June 26th and I still haven't received it. You might want to contact Amazon. I ordered a big bottle of Fruity Pebbles essential oil probably 2 months ago, and it still hasn't come. It says on the way. And I went to go try to contact the seller, and they're like, oh yeah, we're still preparing it. Sorry for the delay. I still don't have an expected date. I guess I'm not supposed to have that much Fruity Pebbles essential oil. Or maybe they're having to squeeze each and every individual pebble, right, to get all that oil out. I think it was like a 16-ounce container, maybe. That's a lot of Fruity Pebbles. But that's how much I use. And I'm not ashamed of it. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Oh, yeah. Ethan True 841 says, nigga, we got to take our land back. It's a war against the white man. Which white man, right? What land are we taking back? Who says that it's yours and ours, right? Who says we? You know what I'm saying? There's so many questions to ask when people start talking like that. But, again, people show you what level of understanding they're at. And if that's the level of understanding they're at, then you know how to communicate with that person. There's no use, there's certain things that there's no use in saying because the person's mind may not be able to comprehend that, right? If I'm having a conversation with somebody and they come up with, we got to take our land back from the white man, we got to fight back. There's a lot of, he's now shown me how we can communicate. There's a whole lot of stuff not discussed simply because his mind isn't on the level. So the thing is, you got to identify who you're communicating with, what level they're at first. You don't just walk up to somebody and try to drop science on them. That's not very wise, and that's definitely not very mature, right? That's not very mature. Do you think these swamis and these gurus and these master teachers, you think they really go around pinning people down and trying to force them to listen? No. You have to actually come to them and demonstrate that you are prepared to receive. They don't go around just trying to put info on you. And anyone who is doing that makes you want to ask some questions, right? Shohai says, I don't dream, but I feel like my dreams are alive, like I'm living it, and that's why I don't dream. Okay, that's a little bit more clear. Good, thank you. So, yeah, there's different levels, right? There's the physical plane, and then there's that etheric astral plane. Now, what happens is your consciousness is always there. Consciousness doesn't stop. It's just it oscillates between these planes given the different context. So, in a waking life context, your awareness and your consciousness is right here on the five senses. But when you lay down and rest your body and relax, your consciousness now expands into that astral plane. It extends into that Yetzirah plane. Now, reality is interpreted a little bit different there. But guess what? You said you don't dream. Now, there's a third level that's even higher than the dream state. And this third level is the dreamless sleep state. Now, this is actually where a lot of the work is done, if not most of the work is done. So to answer your question, then yeah, shamans who actually are on their job doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're working within that plane of dreamless sleep. That's the void. That's the womb where things enter from the causal plane, become converted, right? They become, what did I say? Facilitated, right? Now you're starting to delineate where you can plant those seeds and develop these concepts. That's what these shamans are doing to answer that question. Thank you for clarifying, because if I just jumped off of what you said, it'd have been a whole different answer. We got to be clear in our communications. Kev Rose SS God says, how can I look up my Vedic chart? First and foremost, get your birth date. Not what your mom said over the phone. Oh, well, you were born at 9 a.m. No, you have to get your birth certificate. Look at that paper with your very own eyes. Look at it, see the time, the hour, the minute. Then go to, what's that website that we use? Astro something? Then go look it up. Start with your accurate time. Don't guess and don't ask your mom. Go look at it yourself. If you haven't done that yet, don't go to the website. It's because it's so precise. It's to the minute. Some of them are to the second. There's certain elements that move so quickly that if you don't have that, you're not going to get an accurate reading. So don't just ask your mama. Get the paperwork. And if your mom doesn't have it and you don't have it, you can call up the hospital and they can produce it for you. Indastro is the website. Indastro, Indastro. Go to Indastro with your accurate birth time. That's how you can get your Vedic information. And it is scary accurate. Lance Benefield says, Trav, I have past memories of being killed by the Roman Church around the 1300s and the 1500s. When I hear the stories of burning witches, I cry. I feel that this past trauma has kept me hidden. So you want to take that symbol, you want to take that metaphor, you want to take that image, and you want to begin breaking down some of the energetic, symbolic meanings behind those symbols. This is how you interpret these past lives. This is how you interpret what's going on. Because if your unconscious mind is bringing that to the forefront, charged with emotion, there's something there that is locked, and it's up to you to unlock it. All right, so analyze the symbology of that scenario. Don't just say, oh, I was a witch in the 13th. Like, don't just stop there. There's a reason that you're seeing that. So start to understand symbolically what that represents. Dig deep. Look it up. Research. Not just to like confirm and verify, oh yeah, I knew I was a witch. It's not about that. It's about understanding what it means to you. Why are you getting that image? I'm not getting that image. You're getting that image, which means that it means something specific to you and your personal history. So dig deep into that symbology. Stuffed Dog, what's up, my man? What's up? Society EJ says the mystical Kabbalah is up to $60 now, new. Wild, man, wild. We should prank the system and like pick a book and pretend that we're studying it, but it's like a bullshit book, and then just to see if the price goes up, but really we're not studying it. Maybe instead of saying like the gold book, we can give like a completely different title of some other random ass book. Maybe I should start a service where authors can pay me to promote their book so that the price will go up. One day, companies will get smart enough to hire me to market for them. Maybe I'll work with small businesses first. Ba-bum, bum, ba-bum. Stuff Dog says, people, my brothers, have I been missing the videos, or is this the latest live stream? Yeah, so I only did one live stream. I did one on Friday this week. I haven't done any mystical Kabbalah readings because, like I mentioned, I'm transitioning into a new phase now. I've got multiple consultations to do every day. So I have to reallocate my energy so that I'm still able to do the other things. So I kind of took just a quick break so I can start getting back on a level playing field. We'll get back to it though. Hikate says we have the black book, the gold book, the purple book. Don't forget the blue book and the red book and the manual. These things are very important. Shohei says, what should I do to dream more? Well, who says that you're not dreaming, right? We all dream, but the thing is you're not remembering the dream. Now, if your question is, what should I do to remember my dreams more? Well, then keep a notebook next to your bed and say, when I wake up, I'm going to write down whatever I remember. That's what you say. Don't say, I hope I can remember my dreams, or I'm going to try not to forget my dreams. Say, when I wake up, I'm going to remember. Notice how this is a firm command, not a question or a hope or a dream. You say that you're going to write and record your dream. Then when you wake up, you write whatever it is that you remember, even if you just remember blackness, write it down. Now, you continue to train your unconscious mind to unzip and offer up the goods by showing that you're serious. It only acts based on what you give it. It only interacts with you based on what you give it, because it's busy out there managing your astral body and your mental body and your soul and all this other stuff. And if you're just a little monkey peon out here doing whatever, it doesn't have time to bless you with itself, right? In a way, you kind of have to prove yourself worthy of yourself. That's one way to think of it. There's not another person out there that you're having to prove yourself worthy. Really, what you're doing is you're demonstrating your own maturity to your soul. So one of the ways you can do that, if you want to remember your dreams, is to have a notebook dedicated to this, and then say with affirmation, I'm going to record my dreams. That's one way. Another way is to just let your consciousness do its job. It knows what it's doing. Why are you assuming that this is wrong? Who told you that this is wrong? Who's telling you that you're supposed to dream? I just mentioned how the dreamless sleep is the highest level of dream, and you're telling me you want to go back down? The second way is to let the soul do what it does. Let awareness do what it does. Let the unconscious mind do what it does. Your conscious mind is grossly inferior to the unconscious mind. Your conscious mind is grossly inferior to the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is older than you. It is more developed than you. It has more access to resources than you, right? The list goes on and on. So who's to say that you're, you know what I'm saying? Like, let things do what they do. Not out of fear, not out of laziness, but out of an understanding and respect for how this thing is put together. Can I get a witness? Let the church say amen. GP, are you with me? Oh yeah, we have a church, we ain't going nowhere. GP, are you with me? Oh yeah, we have a church, we ain't going nowhere. I promise the stomp, the whole stomp, nothing but the stomp. It ain't over. It ain't over. Stomp. Oh, I didn't know that this filter came with all that. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got. What else do we have here? Straight Panther says, I'm just glad to sleep, right? Gratitude, man. Gratitude is what opens doors. Gratitude is what opens doors. Being grateful for what you do have. Not trying to dispense with today's moment so you can have more of tomorrow. That's not how it's done. D West, good to see you. The whole stomp, nothing but the stomp. For all of those who said that we have gone too far. Peace out, MC Maestro. The genius has left the chat. Okay. All right. So, Shohei asks, what are these color books about? Oh, high level information, man. Intense magus stuff, right? Mind control and how the soul connects with quantum physics and a bunch of other boring stuff that nobody cares about. The whole stomp, nothing but stomp. Okay, so yeah, I think that was good. I don't have to stay on here for too much longer if what I said was said. But really, I just think that was pertinent information, useful information. There's a few things that through my study. See, here's the thing: like everything cross relates and connects. As long as you're active in this process of trying to better yourself and get more in tune and in touch with your inner self, things will start making sense on a whole new level, right? I've been studying so many different subjects, including psychology and, things like that. And I find that when I go back to, say, Kabbalah or magic or whatever, the dots begin to connect in a different kind of way, right? Because the more that you understand about yourself and the relationship with soul to nature, the more that there's a lot of gaps that before were a mystery, they become filled, right? You don't have to have a spiritual system that's full of mystery, right? Mystery is good. It's good for entertainment, sure. But I prefer to have an understanding of how and why things work. That's what I want. And I found that with working with Kabbalah and working with Samkhya and certain parts of psychology, all the dots are connected and all the gaps are filled. Right now, I'm not searching for answers. Like, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't search for answers. No, I'm there's just so much information that I am, pushing to be able to just absorb it all. And the beautiful thing is, by the time I learn something, there's always this inkling in the back, like, wow, I kind of knew that. I kind of figured that out. Cool, right? Hopefully you're feeling that as well. David Glover says, do you think the Judeo-Christian framework of spirituality is watered down occult? I guess you could say that. Yeah, you could definitely say that. There's a word for it, though. It's called exoteric, which means that, I don't know if you caught the beginning of this video, but if there's 80% of people who are absolutely not in control of themselves, then it would not even be a wise idea to give them the esoteric version. It wouldn't even be a smart idea to give these people the esoteric version. But you still want to at least offer them an opportunity to connect with cosmic forces on a level that they can handle, the animal level, which is why we have mainstream religion, right? It just, like you said, it waters down, it distills these cosmic principles and forces to a manageable portion. So in Christianity, you have access to Tifereth. You have access to Tifereth, the heart center, the Christ center. Because you're not mature enough to embody that principle of the Christ, it's given to you in an external way. So you can look up at that picture of Jesus and say, Jesus, won't he do it? Won't he do it? And he will do it. But at no point will you confuse the power of Tifereth with yourself. And that's good, because even there are occultists who confuse cosmic forces with themselves and they lose their minds, which is kind of the point, but they lose their mind early. You don't want to lose your mind early. You want to dissolve your ego first and then lose your mind. So yeah, you can say that the Judeo-Christian framework of spirituality is watered down occult. There's a word for it. It's called the exoteric. Exo meaning outer order, esoteric meaning inner order. Nature is so kind that she's provided spirit wrapped up in herself. So you can have connection with spirit just going outside, walking barefoot, and soaking up the vibes of the planet's core up through your feet, right? Or sun gazing, or eating some sea moss. You can find and connect to spirit in any manner of way, but it's safe that way. In order for you to really get into that pure, that uncut, that raw, you have to have a composition to be able to handle that. And your composition is not able to handle the pure, uncut, and raw if you're under the influence of unconscious habit patterns that you can't even resist, right? Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. Specifically you, David Glover, who asked that question. Believe it or not, yummy. Oh my goodness, I have got to adjust my schedule, y'all. I have not been getting enough sleep. But I learned so much. I love this because I learned from you, right? I learned from having discussions and helping you figure out what you're trying to figure out. Like I said, there's about 20% you can get from books. 80% you get from living the science. You got to live it. We still live in it. We live in this till the day that we die. Survival of the fit, only the strong survive. Mob deep. You know what I'm saying? Word up. Word to your mother. Dun, 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 dun. I got the power. Randall Leonis says one is for the achievers, the other is for the sheeples. And yes, Travis, right. Right. And we can call them sheeples and whatever. But try to understand with compassion, right? Just like what Christ said, forgive them for they know not what they do. They don't even know that they are sheeple or why they are sheeple. All that they know is they want to reduce their suffering and increase their pleasure. And guess what? So do you. So at the root, we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all one entity, an entity that is seeking to reduce its pain and increase its pleasure. Now, how that process is enacted, well, that's due to the cultural influence and the genetic influence, right? If every single sentient being wants more pleasure and less pain, that literally puts us on the same playing field. But what we've been trained culturally as far as how to achieve pleasure and run away from pain, that's going to determine how you do it. And also genetically, right? But it isn't until you transcend those conditions that you actually start getting to what soul is. Oh yeah. Ortega Yalborough says, speak to occultists losing their mind, ? Thinking face. Well, mainly what we're dealing with is an individual who has not integrated and neutralized their unconscious habit patterns. They haven't done the shadow work. Individuals who have some aspects of themselves that they're completely ignoring or avoiding, right? Here's what I'm saying, like an emotionally immature person, they put boundaries on their life. There's certain feelings that are forbidden. There's certain experiences, thoughts, and feelings that they avoid at all costs. And it gets so bad that they even try to control people so that they won't bring up those harmful, painful feelings. Or they'll cut people out of their lives because they remind them of something that they don't want to think about. That's an immature individual. So to be dealing with cosmic forces and studying the occult and all that other stuff, yet at the same time, you are relying on these frail coping mechanisms. Because look, if you're dealing with divine intelligence, all that shit that you run from is going to come to the surface very soon. Count on it. It's not an if, right? It's not an if. This is how you get lost in the clip off, right? This is how you, oh, the demons are after me and I was messing with the occult, but I had to go back to church, right? No, if you don't deal with these things that are in the unconscious mind, they're going to manifest, right? And now all of a sudden, you at war, fighting the archons and the demiurge and some other shit that you didn't hear about until 2 weeks ago when Brother Panic said it. He put a face on your boogeyman. And that's what the boogeyman is. These unconscious forces that you refuse to address, that you refuse to neutralize. So now you call yourself this spiritualist, this occultist, yet you have enemies. That doesn't even make sense. How are you supposed to be this most high divine being, but you're out here fighting other witches and other spiritual people or something invisible? We got to fight back. It's a war against the demiurge. We got to stop the archons. We got to fight the Illuminati. All you're doing is you're putting a face on your unconscious boogeyman. Uh-oh. Did I hurt your feelings? Did I say something that offended you? Did I make you click off of my video and go back to that soft stuff you were looking at before? But yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Sunshine Chick says, I was reading this Kabbalah book, and the author says that most people are from the vegetable kingdom. They haven't even made it to the animal kingdom. Wow. I'd like to see that, because that piques my interest. You know, I always just kind of deduced that most of these people are fresh out of the animal kingdom. But for you to say that, that's pretty interesting and kind of funny. So yeah, I'm a libertarian. My last life, I was a carrot. Just trying to learn how to be a human again. I identify as a Kakarot. You must call me Kakarot. My pronouns are Goku, Kakarot. Let me stop. For somebody who really does get mad. The Way of Kabbalah. Hello, Vegeta. There he is. My pronouns are Saiyan, Super Saiyan, and Kakarot. So, yeah. Don't call me nothing. My pronouns is you're not allowed to give me any labels. How about that? Oh my gosh. Okay. I think this is the end of the video. Mainly because I really have to pee now. But I'm wondering if there's anything else that has to be said or could be said. Society Eject says, LOL, so the people that fight for animals' rights probably just came out of an animal body. Yeah. David Glover says, I just found your channel. You probably addressed this before. What was the first book that put you on this path? Man, it ain't even like that. It's not like I found this amazing book and all of a sudden I'm here. I can tell you the first occult books I remember buying, that was the Satanic Bible, the Necronomicon, and Marilyn Manson's autobiography. I bought all those at the same time, and that started my book collection. But to say which book started your journey, there were different phases of the journey, and the journey is very all over the place. If you're looking for something to start with, maybe read the Kabbalion. There's enough people in this chat that know all these books. You guys give me some good suggestions for the fellow that asked the question. I don't lost your name, for Mr. Glover. You know, we could say the Kabbalion, we could say Libra Null and the Psychonaut, we could say Basic Magic, we could say the Magician. You know, the point is to get into the habit of studying patterns. That's the best thing to do. Get into the habit of studying patterns. Find where the dots are connected. That's how you're going to find the truth. It's not in a book. The book's going to give you different pieces, but you want to study the patterns. For sure. Aw, Trav knows just how to trigger me so easily. It's all in love, my friend. It's all in compassion. One thing I want more than to trigger sensitive people is to help them lose those triggers so they're no longer sensitive. I seen life through the lens of a Ray-Ban. Off the wall fashion might have seen me in some gray vans. Beats getting lyrically touched. I'm about to lay hands. Getting blessed with a verse, scream amen. Here we go. Alicia M says Ladder of Lights. Kind of complex, but that's a great book to learn about the Kabbalah. Jerome Jeff says Cyclomancy. Hey, if you can find it, that's a good book that can teach you how to practically apply your visualizations to make result happen. That's a good one, yeah. What else we got? What else we got? Sunshine Chick says, Travis, I sent you this author in your Instagram DM. He also has a book that I think you may find interesting, Kabbalah and Psychology. Okay. I recently, oh my gosh. I recently found one book of one of my favorite NLP practitioners who, in her words, became enlightened and wrote a book about that. That's cool. And another one I just found the other day was a certain NLP teacher that I've been studying from. And I'm like, man, a lot of this stuff sounds Kabbalistic. And he's like, oh yeah, so also we work with the Kabbalah. He wrote a whole book on Kabbalah. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So two of my favorite NLP practitioners, one wrote a book on enlightenment because she went to India and dealt with some of these yogis. And the other one is a guy who has been studying Kabbalah all along. So like, man, I manifested something real sweet. I'm very happy about those two books. Society Eject says the paths of poverty and nivrity. Look, man, you asked the question. Go ahead and screenshot some of these titles, bro. Screenshot some of these titles. Society Eject says the Bible. Nah, that you got to actually be a little bit advanced to get the esoteric out of the Bible. That's not for simple minds. Because this is what you'll get when simple minds read the book and try to look for the esoteric stuff. Well, the Bible was written by man, so it's not the word of God because it was written by man. Who the hell else is gonna write the book? Is it gonna fall out the sky? Come on now. It's written by man, so it can't be divine. Expand yourself, young Padawan. Atropa says Astrology and Other Occult Games and Witches by Erica Jong. I haven't heard of that one. Birdie says The Secret. Okay. Shango says some people need to study Jung and brain anatomy to comprehend their basic human nature before delving into high occult sciences. Very true. Honestly, seek what has ignited you. What are you excited about? Do you get excited about tarot? Do you get excited about working with demons? Do you get excited about meditation? What do you get excited about? That's a good place to start. Because if I can give you a bunch of titles, and if you find it boring, you're not going to read it. You might buy it, but you won't finish it. So my suggestion is to study the patterns and also find something that you're thrilled about. Not what everyone else is reading. Stray Panther says Ophiel. Get you something by Ophiel. Right? Find you a book by Ophiel. There's some really amazing and awesome person on YouTube that did a couple of audiobooks for all of Ophiel's books. Maybe if you Google YouTube Ophiel audiobook, they might pop up. I'm just saying. Yes, yes, y'all. And you don't stop to the beat, y'all. Thank you guys for these suggestions, by the way. We Grow Natural says Universal Human was pretty good. I haven't heard of that one. Shohei says, what book did you say that helps you visualize it? You just said it. Cyclomancy. 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 By Frank Rudolph Young. It's a rare book, but we've entered the age of PDFs, so it is no longer rare. I will warn you, you're probably going to find a copy that's missing pages 45 to 60 or something like that. If that's the case, let me know, or someone that's associated with me, and we'll be able to get you in touch with the PDF with the missing pages. See, that's what's so good about having a community, because we can help each other out where we may fall short. But some of us are just short anyways, so. Rise Academy says, all of what you feel is divine. Go within. Yes, even me with this full bladder is divine. I'm going to go within that bathroom in just a minute. Indigo Blackbird says, Be Here Now by Ram Dass. That's a good one. That's a good one. She says, that shit had me butterflying. Butterflying, okay. Doing the butt. Sunshine Chick says, the Four Agreements. My first New Age book was Four Agreements. That's a good one. Shango says, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. Heavy stuff. That's by Carl Jung. Shohei says, sheesh, that motherfucker's like 3,000. Right, which is why I said get the PDF. Gotta listen. Gotta listen. I don't mince my words. Stray Panther says, Chicken Kabbalah by Lon Milo Duquette. That's another good one. Maybe not the best to start with, but a good one to start with for Kabbalah. We Grow Natural says, Universal Human and the Seat of the Soul are by Gary Zukov. Okay. All right. Cool. So it looks like we have quite the selection of great books that you can start with. Cyclomancy is a good one. Like I said, Liber Null and Psychonaut. That's a good one. The Kabbalion, right? Anything by Ophiel, Ophiel. You can even go to YouTube and type in Ophiel audiobooks, and I swear there's this really amazing person who did these audiobooks for Ophiel, just in case you can't find them. Jerome Goff says any of Frank Rudolph Young's books. Right. So you got plenty to start with. Do not make a list and not take action. Do not buy a book and don't read it, right? Pick one of these and dedicate yourself to finishing it, and you're going to see exactly what we're talking about. I mean it. These are all good ones. All good ones. Stuffed Dog says The Magician by Philip Cooper. Get you The Magician by Philip Cooper. If you see it on Amazon and you're like, oh, it's too expensive, that book used to be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So whatever price it is right now, might be worth it. You can thank Dreamwise for getting that price back down to something realistic, because he actually contacted the author personally. And in doing so, I got to have a conversation with him as well. Pretty cool. Shohei says, I'm reading The Magician, read by you, Trav. Ah, yeah, that's the awesome person that does the audiobooks. Travis Magus, I think his name is. Hollow Vegeta says, the only thing that pops up under Ophiel is a guy named Travis Magus. Yeah, I think that's him. I'm pretty sure that's him. Hekate Goddess says, I appreciate you, how much you share, Travis. Thank you. Thank you for your donation, Hekate. I appreciate you. Stray Panther says, Dictionary of Ancient Deities is $48 on Amazon now. Cool. That's a good one as far as like having a dictionary in case you need to know what entity. If you hear of an entity and you want to go look them up, better than Wikipedia. don't get the big book of NLP circa 2019, because that one is now $378. Okay, well, look, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. You got books to read. You got stuff to think about. You guys will probably see me tomorrow reading another chapter of Mystical Kabbalah. If you're in my Shadow Work Mastery System course, stay tuned, because we've got the Inner Child segment coming up here very soon, and then we're about to move into phase 2. So if you haven't caught up on the videos, go ahead and catch up on the videos. Answer some of the questions for your own sake, because this helps you to really dig in and analyze your unconscious faculties. And just be on the lookout, because we got something very, very interesting coming up this next week. If you haven't signed up for my Shadow Work Mastery System course, you might want to consider doing so, because what is presented here is quite life-changing. Don't take my word for it. Ask anyone who is a member and who is experiencing results already. I'm not one to toot my horn, but I could. I'm just saying. All right, but yeah, I'm about to go. As usual, it's been amazing. It's been fantastic. You're amazing. You're fantastic. I love you guys. I would not rather be anywhere else. Right here is really good. The only other place I'd rather be right now is the bathroom. So, all right. Char Ra says, will this stay up? Yes, I will keep it up for sure. All right, keep studying. And keep practicing. And remember what I said. It's not free will unless you become aware of the unconscious influences. And it's not an on or off, right? You are artificial intelligence, but you're not a machine. It's not on and off. It's a gradual expanding of the awareness. Now, as you gradually expand your awareness into the unconscious mind, you start to notice and pick up on some of the things that you weren't aware of before. This is how you grow and you mature. This is how you earn your free will, by becoming aware of the things that keep you conditioned and limited. It isn't until you become aware of those things that you start to develop free will. All right? So just pay attention to your everyday life. You don't have to read any special book. You don't have to get no book on NLP and psychology. No, just pay attention to what you do. Pay attention to your decision-making process. Pay attention to everything that you think creates you and your personality. Pay attention to those things, and then ask the right questions, right? Ask the questions that are uncomfortable. Ask the questions that challenge your emotions, because there's a lot of people who run away from certain emotions. No, ask the right questions, challenge yourself, figure out who you are and why you do what you do. That's how you're going to evolve into free will. Okay? All right. So peace, everybody. I appreciate you all for being here. On your way out, if you didn't hit the like button, go ahead and hit it now. It's your last chance. Why? Because I'm tapping out. All right, everybody. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Peace.